Okay, good. When you look at the heart has two nerve supplies. It has one in the top of the neck, one in the top of the thoracic area. And those nerves require that heart or tell it to raise or lower or slow it down, any of that stuff. It literally is going to raise and lower the heart rate based on the nerves that supply it. So does that mean every cardiac arrhythmia, every atrial fibrillation, preventricular contractions, all of these things that are called cardiac arrhythmias have to do with the altered nerve supply to the heart? They do. And we know that those nerves come here to a node called the sinoatrial node. And then this has the nervous system comes down inside of the heart, okay, to Purkinje fibers, bundle of hip. There's a bunch of different things. But the SA node, sinoatrial node, is the pacemaker of the heart. So if you have a problem with atrial fibrillation or an interruption of rhythm, do you want to burn the nerves in the heart? No, that doesn't make sense. We have a future doctor here, and he says, no, that's probably not a good idea. Do you want to drug the heart? No. How about you look at the structure? That would be a good thing. Then we have to look at blood cells. Now, under physical, chemical, or emotional stress, the blood cells should be separate. If the blood cells are separate, they hold oxygen. If the blood cells start to clump together, okay, that's from low stomach acid. So beautiful, healthy red blood cells, stressed red blood cells, and when you see them stacked, and they call it rouleau coin formation, which just like stacks of coins, when you see a stack of red blood cells, that's not going to hold oxygen. So in chronic states of stress, the blood cells aren't going to be holding as much oxygen. So what is the body going to do with blood pressure? If the blood isn't efficient, does blood pressure stay the same or go up? I know I'm going too fast. Does it stay the same? I mean, it's just basic that high blood pressure is going to be an adaptation to stress, your perception of the environment, because if we're watching a scary movie, your blood pressure is going to go up, or the efficiency of the blood. So if you give somebody a blood pressure drug, does that help their blood get healthy? Or does it just slow down the heart rate? It just slows it down. So when you have a doctor that says, we don't know the cause of high blood pressure, you fire that doctor. Okay? Because if they're going to burn your heart because you have an AFib without looking at the nerves that supply the heart, if they're going to give you a drug to lower blood pressure without looking at the efficiency of the blood, none of those make sense. And in order to take blood pressure correctly, you have to debrief 15 minutes before you check it. Now, let's look at the arteries. You've heard that arteries can get clogged, right? How come veins can't get clogged? And the clogged arteries is dangerous because it can break off and kill you. Okay, have you heard that? Okay, none of that stuff is true. So let's look at this. The structure of the artery and the structure of the veins. Arteries actually have a muscular layer inside that constricts and dilates. It opens and closes. So if you're in stress, you want blood supply to the arms and legs to open up. You want blood supply to digestion to shut down. So if you're in a chronic state of stress, you don't have good supply to digestion. Like when you eat a really good meal, when I go to Darnay's restaurant, which is one of my favorites, okay, when you're eating a really good meal, do you feel like exercising afterwards? No. You want to just sit around and digest. Okay, so these things are constricting and dilating all the time based on your perception of the environment. So they have a muscle inside. Now this muscle inside it's a muscle, so it needs blood supply. So what they're called are vasovasorums, blood vessels of the blood vessels. Now, these blood vessels supply this muscular layer that opens and closes. Now, there's multiple good articles because a lot of doctors don't understand how arteries can get clogged. Well, number one, if you clog these blood vessels that supply them, the artery gets weakened. Now, the inner layer of the artery is called endothelium. Now, there's certain medical interventions that were forced on people a few years ago that actually damage the lining of the arteries. And this is why you have a lot of cardiac problems and arterial problems and brain problems from people that have had those injections. But this endothelial layer literally has a lot of sensors in it. And those sensors communicate to the brain at the health of that artery. Because if you cut the artery in the leg, you're dead in about 2-3 minutes. You cut in your abdomen, you're going to bleed out in about 30-40 seconds. So these sensors are going to tell you that that artery is healthy or not. Now, if you damage those blood vessels that supply the blood vessels, then the arterial wall gets weak and it gets dangerous. So the body, in its wisdom, is going to protect that artery with calcium, cholesterol, and fibrin. And it's literally protecting a damaged artery. So when you have a damaged artery, cholesterol goes up. And in fact, cholesterol is the number one component, 50% of the way to the brain. It's the number one component of every cell in your body except for red blood cells. It's the precursor to every hormone, every glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, and sex hormone. And cholesterol will go up if there's tissue damage. Oh, I'm sorry, you're from 2025. So you think that high cholesterol is a bad thing. And so blocked arteries actually have to do with the blocking of the blood vessels that supply the blood vessels. Does that make sense? So when we talk about people that have brain issues, okay, and I'm talking seizures, strokes, asymmetrical, facial asymmetry, all of those things indicate that there's a problem with the brain. The reason the brain's so important is it only weighs 2 pounds. It burns 90% of the body's oxygen. So if it can't get that oxygen because the blood is not efficient, okay, or there's some kind of problem with the blood vessels, okay, then the brain is going to have to protect itself. It's going to be in a stress state. Does that make sense? So to repair the arteries, to repair the brain, to repair damage, there's only 3 things you got to fix. And we talk about physical, chemical, and emotional stress. Physical stress, particularly when you're looking at the heart, since that pump has to work, you're looking at the nerve supply to the heart, and that's in the top of the neck and the top of the rib cage. And you're also looking that the body has this automatic nervous system, and it's in 2 parts. One part, and this nervous system controls everything. One part is stress, one part's regeneration. So if you're always in that physical, chemical, or emotional stress, blood pressure, cholesterol, digestion will be decreased, sexual dysfunction all the time, blood sugar, mental illness, all of these things are going to be affected whether your body's in a stress state or regenerative state. And this is why the first time, anytime someone's coming in, I say, how did you sleep last night? I'm never going to say, how do you feel? Because if you're poor sleeping, then you're not regenerating. Okay, and that's with every condition. If you're in a constant state of stress, you're not going to regenerate. And then when we're looking at this automatic nervous system, when we're going through each one of these, that you have to have healthy nutrients. This means anyone with any kind of condition can't eat food that they're not familiar with. So have we always had monosodium glutamate, MSG? No. Have we always had corn oil or soy oil or canola oil? No. All of those. So you have a hunter-gatherer body. So in order to have your body recover, you need a healthy diet. And this is the diet of your great-great-grandmother. Organic, whole food, very little processing, and varied. You need to detox the system. So respiration, perspiration, bowel movements, and urination. Like let's say you swim. Swimming is fantastic exercise. Let's say you're running. Fantastic exercise. Let's say you're weightlifting. Excellent. Okay. But if you're swimming in a chlorine pool, you need to have iodine. If you're swimming in the ocean, you're going to be okay. Sweating, bowel function. If you have 2 to 3 healthy bowel movements a day, that means your body's functioning correctly. Your urine should be light yellow in color. All of these things. Neuroplasticity, symmetrical movement, sleep. And this is what seizures and other things are. It's literally the brain not getting the right information, so it sends a motor impulse down. And then regeneration, movement, sleep, and nutrients. And then your body can adapt. And when you're looking specifically at the heart issue, the arteries, that little 2-pound brain burns 90% of the body's oxygen. So if you've been damaging those arteries with seed oils or toxic food, then healthy blood will not get to the tissue. And so this is why we talk about the chemical stressors of poor diet. And then you've got the physical stressors, chemical stressors, and emotional stressors. And we're going to cover this over the next few weeks. If you're in an emotionally stressed state, is your body relaxed? No. Your heart rate goes up, blood sugar goes up, the blood becomes like this. So if we're just watching a scary movie, your blood is going to start to become thicker. This is why we address all 3 of those. And by the way, this blocked artery, it's not really blocked. It's the body protecting it. Is this alive or dead? It's alive? You're right. So wait a second. So the body built this to protect the artery, okay? And so when you correct the damage, okay, and I mean clean the other arteries, and this is through soluble fiber and healthy fibers and not damaging it. So you're not getting the MSG, you're not getting the seed oils, you're not getting the processed or packaged foods. Okay, then these arteries will clean. 70 years ago, Linus Pauling came up with the solution, vitamin C and L-lysine. But the solution is basic. Your great-great-great-grandmother never had any of this problem because her diet was healthy, organic. She wasn't taking anything that would block those arteries. Does that make sense? Isn't that cool? Okay, so all of these things are literally the body correctly responding. Now, the prolapse, when this heart contracts, these valves slam together. Okay, and this is why when you put your head on your sweetheart's chest and you hear that love, that's literally the valves slapping together. Okay, but when you hear love, that means that these ligaments that attach that valve to the wall are loose. This is why in conditions like scurvy, that can cause valve prolapse. If you're looking at the severe nutrient deficiencies, and again, so you correct that. And you can correct cardiac arrhythmias, you can correct valves prolapses, you can correct a lot of things by restoring the nerve supply to the heart, cleaning up the arteries and blood vessels, cleaning up the diet, and then the body can regenerate healthy. Does that make sense? Yep. Now, any questions? Because this heart, man, starts working with it's one of the first systems that form when you were still in mom, okay, and then it keeps going for the next 120 years without stopping. So this thing is designed to run correctly. What the doctors are missing, they think that high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cardiac arrhythmias, blocked arteries, and valve prolapses, they think those are actually problems and not the end result of nutrient deficiencies, nutrient toxicities, altered nerve supply to the heart, the body adapting correctly. Yeah. Did you check your dog or cat, their blood pressure this morning? Okay, I know. I always ask that because people will, why am I going to check my dog's blood pressure? That's so stupid. Yeah. Oh, a dog can regulate his blood pressure, but you can't. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go check this koi pond. There's a bunch of koi fish out there. I'm going to check their blood pressure. No, their eyeballs have blowjob. Okay, now, any questions about this so far? Okay? God bless you. Kapung Krab. Thank you very much.